It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Friday, November 3rd, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that's going to take a look at the Flyers overall 10 games into the season.
Digging in.
We're going to do that plus preview what the Flyers can do different versus the Sabres this time and their matchup against the Kings this weekend.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. You can find me on the app formerly known as Twitter at @rmiriam. I'm here as always with Russ Cohen, who can be found on any and all social media apps at Sportsology. And as a show, we are at Locked On Flyers on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, you name it, we're probably there. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. You can find us over on YouTube. We're on the SiriusXM app or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Subscribe to get our latest episode as soon as it's available here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Russ, no practice yesterday, so as a result, no Carter Hart update in the afternoon as we might have expected.
No, like I was thinking last show, I do think Cal Petersen's going to come up because I do think Felix Sandstrom needs to play. And so this way he gets to play. And then at some point, like if, Ursun's not doing it and they don't want to really use Petersen, then they can make the switch after Sandstrom gets a few games in, because we know it's going to be weeks for Carter Hart. We're pretty sure of that now. So it's just a matter of like how many weeks. And that's why my gut feeling tells me he's hitting the IR, but we don't know. So we'll wait to hear it. We'll probably hear it, the next morning or something before the game.
Yeah, and from what we've seen with the Phantoms, Cal Petersen has kind of had mixed results so far,
Yeah.
but we do know that he also has the potential to play really well at the NHL level. So it does make a large degree of sense that he would be the natural call up here should the Flyers need to. We will keep an eye on that for sure. In the meantime, the Flyers have now played 10 games of the 82 game season.
1/8 of the season. Well, roughly.
Roughly. It's a nice round number, so it's a good time to do kind of a big picture check-in on this team and just ask the questions, are they playing better than they were last year at this time? Have we seen improvements? Like where is this team headed? And it's a real interesting data set right now because, it's still early season, so things will level out more to some degree, but at the same time the numbers are starting to get a little bit more significant here and you can glean things from them. And of course we're going to look at the numbers and the eye test here, but
Right.
I want to start with the numbers here because I think that paints a fascinating picture because looking at natural stat trick and evolving hockey, the Flyers are top 10 in the league in stats like scoring chance percentage, high danger chances for percentage, expected goal percentage. On evolving hockey, for instance, the Flyers are best in the NHL for expected goals against per 60 at 2.52. So they're preventing goals as well. And all of these are very good results and very good numbers, but the team is not winning a
Right.
lot of games. And so like you have to ask the question, are these numbers good or bad or both?
I think they are both. I think there's some good in it and it shows some progress. I think when, I don't know, you have a coach that decides, hey, I'm going to pull the goalie with 3 minutes to go in the game, it's a bad idea because uh, what this team is like when it goes 6-on-5 and they couldn't even get the puck. And of course, it goes into the net and then it's 4-2 before you even think about it, right? So that's something where the coach sort of changed the numbers on that. So, you have to take all those things into account. there's a luck factor, like with all teams, and like that Joel Farabee goal. Hey, you'll take it. That's you shoot the puck, someone hits somebody's stick, it goes in. That's good luck. So all those things get wrapped up in numbers, though. They do. And right now, after 10 games, they do look good numbers wise, but they've lost 3 in a row. So that's the thing where, and this is why the numbers are a guide. And like a lot of GMs will use the numbers, but they'll use them to about 30-40% of what, the team actually does, because, you know, I wrote a Mets book called Numbers Don't Lie, but they do lie sometimes. They do. And so like that's where it gets to be a tough thing to figure out which numbers do you pull and go forward with, and which ones do you say, all right, maybe we need to see more. That's the hard part as an organization, is to figure that out.
Right. And I think that, there are some other numbers here that help explain the difference between, what their offensive stats are at some of the defensive, like I said, and the results here, because you look at their shooting percentage, that's middle of the road in
Yeah.
the league right now. And they're the fifth worst on the power play, which
That's
obviously we know
that's
that,
a given, right? You don't even
right.
have to look it up.
No, I mean, you have to look it up to know exactly where they are,
Right.
but you pretty much know what's
Yeah.
happening there. And I think that, some of that balances each other out. But I think that overall, you look at these numbers, it means that they are doing a lot of things right and a lot of
Mhm.
things better than last season. And I think, when you're looking at a rebuild, that's what you want. You just want improvement. And maybe if the end results of the game aren't quite there, that's okay in the grand scheme of things. It's hard in the moment, and it's hard to think about 3 losses in a row, and it must be tough on the guys, but I think as long as you're making that steady progress, I think things are good.
So the only thing is though, like these are team numbers, right? And so I
Mhm.
still want young players with good singular numbers to start, to move forward. But if you're not playing enough of those young players, then these are numbers that you're getting with some of your vets, some of your returning vets, and some of the vets you have for maybe half a season until you trade them, like a Walker. And so like that's part of it that kind of like in the back of my mind, like hits me like like a big hammer. Like, okay, yeah, these numbers are great, but now how many of these guys are going to be Flyers in 2 years?
Right, and that's where for me, I'm looking at team stats this early, but I'm not necessarily looking at individual stats
Hmm.
overall this early. I mean, you do because, God bless Travis Konechny, he's
Yeah,
doing great. Travis Sanheim, and Cam Atkinson, round out the 3 Flyers that are in the top 50 in points
yeah,
in the NHL right now. And so I think that there's some good to be gleaned there, but I wanna look at 20 to 25 games for individuals to
hmm,
really see how they're doing so far. But, I think that looking at these numbers overall, it is a good starting point here. Obviously, we do wanna consider the eye test. We'll talk more about that as this, show continues, but I do think that there is a lot of good results here to show
yeah,
for the
no
work.
question. I mean, they wouldn't. This explains, what the good part of their record is. And that's, something you definitely have to look at, and something you definitely have to track, and something you definitely have to, like I said, break down. You got to break it down
Yeah.
over the next 10 games now and see what the
Yep.
difference is. Not necessarily, you don't necessarily need to see what the end number is in the next 10 games. I would rather see what the difference is. But
Yep.
again, the only problem with that is if Carter Hart's out, these numbers are going to change.
Yeah, that is also true. So, that brings us to sort of our eye test and how is this team playing and how do they look out there? And, we will get to that coming up next.
As a business owner, you realize there are times when receivables might fall behind. That doesn't mean you need to fall behind on vendor payments, payroll, or rent. More than 25 years, for more than 25 years, Parkview Advance has helped businesses secure working capital from 5,000 to 1.5 million. Parkview Advance can approve your working capital in as little as 24 hours. It's a much easier process than you might imagine. We invite the many entrepreneurs that are Locked On NHL fans to learn more by calling us at 203-675-0071 or go to parkviewadvance.com. If your business needs working capital, call Parkview Advance today. Parkview Advance, helping businesses with their working capital. Go to parkviewadvance.com.
When you're drafting your fantasy team, do you ever wish you could do the same thing with your business? If you're building a roster to win the league, you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. You don't have to spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills. You can do it all with Indeed. Candidates you invite to apply through Instant Match are 3 times more likely to apply to your job than candidates who only pick it up in search. As soon as you sponsor a post, you get a short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Then you can invite them to apply right away. Indeed knows that when you're growing your own business, you have to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that match your must-have job requirements. Visit Indeed.com/locked on to start hiring now. That's Indeed.com/locked on. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. You need to hire, you need Indeed. The Flyers play the Sabres tonight at 7 Eastern in Buffalo. You can catch every second of the Flyers' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search for Flyers. Russ, continuing our 10 game into the season check-in discussion here, and talking about the eye test. I think, one of the things that we've noticed is that they really have like 2 modes of operation here, right? They're
Yeah.
either playing extremely aggressive offensively or they're playing a really tight defensive game. And you don't tend to see both of those happening at the same time, right?
No, no, you don't. Michael Jello, who works for the Hockey News, uh, and he covers Buffalo, got a quote from Rasmus Dahlin. He basically said that Philly has an awkward game style, and I think that's why he said that, because I was in the Sabres locker room and I could hear one of the reporters say, you know, Philly got their wish and they were able to lock down the second period, and then they kind of opened it back up in the third. So it's not just us thinking it. Other people who are watching it for the first time, even live, are saying that too. So I think there's it's hard to do that. I think it's hard to do that, and I get why they are doing it, in the sense that, like, in the third period, hey, once you fall behind, you got to try and do something to get back in the game. But it is a hard game plan to carry out throughout a season. Like, I think you still have to just pick one, but who's to say?
Right, and I think there's a lot of, chicken and egg thing happening here with that because you see the defense getting a lot more activated, than they have been, and you see that specifically, I think, with Sean Walker and Travis Sanheim, and for Sanheim, I think it's paid off, really well in terms of his points that he's gotten on the board. It's gotten him into a little bit of trouble, and then, of
It
course, you have
has.
Sean Walker, who I think has played a ton better than he did in the preseason and showed a lot more. We were concerned about him in the preseason.
Yeah,
I think he's played a lot better in the regular season
he
so
has.
far. And, he has those shorthanded goals to show for it in terms of the aggressiveness and offensive activation there. But I do think it has led to some mistakes because they let up even for just a moment, and then the other team scores on the back door or gets a 2-on-1 that the Flyers can't stop.
Yeah, that's the positive side on it. And then I think, again, the negative side of it is, if you look for Cam York, you're like, where are the points? Like, he's got 3 points. I mean, 3 points wouldn't be bad if he never saw the power play, but he's on the top power play at times, and he's definitely on the power play either way, and he gets good power play minutes. And he's struggling that way. He's struggling a little bit defensively, but not a ton. I think because of the new, you know, position, I think he's doing okay defensively. So I'm not critical on that. I'm just critical of, hey, this guy is supposed to be an offensive player and, an offensive defenseman, and we're not seeing the offense.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if those 2 different styles of play that the Flyers are showing is maybe a little confusing for him because he doesn't know which part of his game to activate in any given situation. They know, like he knows that the Flyers want him to get on the board and try things, but he probably feels a lot of pressure in a Torts system to be defensively responsible and is maybe leaning a little bit heavier in that direction.
Yeah, I think there is something to be said about that. I do. And again, he's shooting a little bit more because he has to, right? If he's playing the point at times, um, he has to do that. So he is only 22, and I do think that that's probably a big part of it.
Yeah, and I would say this is a team that, given where they are in the rebuild, really has to react well to adversity. And I think, right now they have been mostly. I think, there was maybe one or two games where once they went down, they kind of let up. But, we saw that in that game against the Ducks, they didn't let up for good
No,
portions of that game. They really, tried to get back into it and switched again to that aggressive offensive style of play. It didn't work out for them because, when you do that, you leave paths open for a quick team like the Ducks to come back and score the other way. But I do think that, another good sign of this team is that they're not down on themselves. They really feel like they have the ability to come back in any situation. And I think that's good.
yeah, there's no question. Like yesterday's game, they showed some resiliency. I tweeted it, and I felt that that was legitimate. Um, another stat I want to bring up, and it's just, through Hockey Reference, is we talked about last year that while Tippett had 27 goals, he could have had a lot more, especially with the ice time had he hit the net more. And early this season, he's missing a lot of shots. Like his shots through percentage is down 5.8% from last year. So, he's got 16 misses right now and he's got 2 goals. And even Tortorella brought it up a couple of games ago about him, missing. And so that's
Yeah, but
something where
it's not just him though. That's the
no,
thing,
no,
is
no,
that's what the
it's not.
numbers say.
It's not. I'm only saying this because I feel like this is a team-wide thing, and they do need an additional coach to battle this, and they haven't done it. I'm going to go back and beat that drum a little, only because we are seeing this, and the coach is seeing this. So that's something I feel like could be improved through another coach. Like,
Yeah. Well, and that brings us to the power play situation, right? We talked
oh
about
yeah,
the
big
numbers
elephant in
side
the
of
room.
it. Right. We talked about the number side of it in the first segment, but the eye test clearly says the same thing, that it's the system they have going isn't working and they're not making adjustments there. And that could be the difference between winning and losing in some of the games here that we've been talking about. And I do think that some wholesale change is necessary. And I'm not sure like what the path here is for this team. Like we haven't heard anything to indicate that that's something they're clearly aware of and are going to make adjustments on.
Right, and we're not talking about a firing. We're saying, hey, redo the responsibilities. We've seen Elaine Vigneault did that at one point. Everybody kind of redid the responsibilities and they changed it up. They could do that. The one thing that was obvious though, and really is a bad way to close out the game against the Sabres, is when you have that power play late in the game and it's just
Yep.
failing. That just it is a such a defeating thing for a team. And that's where, like, when your power play fails, how it can really take away from that mental, acuity, the sharpness, and really kind of, get you down. And it does. It could really derail a team when the power play is going bad.
Yeah. So, given all that, adjustments versus the Sabres for part two of this home and home. I think, talking about scoring chances, that we know the Flyers are getting good scoring chances. The numbers bear it out. But as we've talked about a little, they're not getting good second chances here.
No,
And the shooting percentage, I think, has a lot to do with that. That even when they're not getting good shots to actually go in, they're also not getting rebounds either.
true. one of the things they could do is break up that fourth line. Sit Nick Delorier. He did, he I know there was one point where they said, "Oh, he almost scored a goal," but the Sabres were really kind of exploiting Nick Delorier a bit. Lack of speed. Tuck was knocking him down one time, really knocked him down. I was shocked at that. And so, like, why is this fourth line still together? Like, you could make a change there. You could call somebody up. You could get some new energy on it. I feel like against Buffalo, if nothing else, that would be a big help because Buffalo rolls a good four, as you could see, and the speed's really
Yep.
good. There were times when Buffalo was really just doing what they wanted with speed, not for the whole game, but times in that game. And so I feel like that would be a way back because, again, like we talked about last show, when they played the fourth line, they played them for like 10 minutes. And that meant, like, yeah, all of a sudden they were out there for like defensive zone responsibilities and stuff. And, I just felt like it wasn't a good move.
Yeah, I think that's a really good start. I do think they need to have better positioning on the trailers coming into the offensive
Yes.
zone in order to get those second opportunities that maybe they aren't getting right now. And, I think overall, they just really need to balance out those two approaches. They can't be all offensively oriented or all defensively oriented. I think that, when they're all defensively oriented, it looks like they're turtling. And
Yeah.
it's when they're all offensively oriented, they're making mistakes. So
And you're getting
let's
mixed
figure out
results, right?
happy medium here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're getting mixed results on the team. Like, you're getting great results out of Bobby Brink, and you're getting no results out of Tyson Forster. Like, it's like
Yeah.
you want to see a happy medium there somehow. But, a tweeter brought this up, and he had a very good point. There was a point when I think they had Forster and Tippett on each side of the power play, and nobody was shooting. Neither of those guys were shooting. Those are the kinds of things that got to get worked out.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, we also have a matchup against the LA Kings this weekend, and we are going to talk about them coming up next. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Have you ever wondered why you struggle sometimes? Therapy is a good way to figure out what's holding you back so you can work for yourself instead of against yourself. It's helpful for determining how to make decisions more effectively, learning positive coping skills, and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. It isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma or a specific incident. Anyone can benefit. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online and designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. You just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Make your brain your friend with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedonnhl today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedonnhl. So, Russ, the LA Kings, they have an off season that we are, of course, familiar with of the changes that they made because they got rid of Cal Petersen and sent him our way. And that allowed them to re-sign Gavrikov. They picked up Pierre-Luc Dubois and then signed him as well. They got some depth players. Trevor Lewis is back with the LA Kings after an absence. England is there as well. He just scored his first NHL goal too, so that was really cool for him. And then on the goaltending front, they've decided to kind of not go for the superstar goaltender. They had, Quick for all those years. Now they're rocking Cam Talbot and then they signed David Rittich, who's playing in Ontario at the moment. So they made some significant steps to try and shore themselves up on the forward side. It has absolutely led to them being a deadly team with a lot of depth up front.
Yeah, they're the best scoring team in the league, or at least were a couple days ago. The speed is really good too. I mean, they really made the Leafs look bad, like
Yeah.
bad, and that can happen to any team any night. But they do get scoring from a lot of different players, and that's something where that's that's problematic. But on the plus side, their power play stinks, but their penalty kill is great at
Yeah.
84%. So like they have a similar problem to the Flyers. So that's something where, all right. And then actually the Flyers get better goaltending on average. They're not even getting NHL quality goaltending as far as their save percentage on an average basis. That's what all they're looking for. If they just get average goaltending, they can win games. And so this is a game again where, yes, putting a lot of shots on net matters. But again, I don't fall in love with the shot total. I fall in love with the quality shots. And like you said, having those instances where you get 3 or 4, and that's where you could, do something. But you got to have to outmuscle them or outskate them, and they are fast and strong. They've got a combination of speed and size that's really good.
Yeah, they do, and, especially, like, that top line is just monster with, Kopitar centering Byfield and Kempe. I
Yeah,
just that is gonna be a tough line to defend against.
it is. And Fiala's played against the Flyers before and has done really well. And yeah, Kempe and Kopitar, like you said, always trouble. Drew Doughty, always trouble because he always has the puck.
Yeah.
Pierre-Luc Dubois has his own good gifts, and Byfield's starting to come on, and Byfield is a force of nature when he enters the offensive zone. Uh, Good luck getting him off the puck. So, and Kaliev on the power play has their best shot, and he's back and healthy now. So they have to watch out for these certain things. And right now, the Kings are kind of one of those teams. They know they have to win a lot of games in the West to be able to make the playoffs, like to keep their playoff thing going from last year. And right now they're on pace to do that. But if I'm the Flyers, I do have to really get good quality shots and get them multiple quality shots, not just that one good shot, but more than that. Because also what the Kings are going to do is something similar to what Buffalo has been doing, and that's sort of like with their breakout, skipping a step and either doing a stretch pass or having a guy just skate it out quickly. And sometimes those things foul up the Flyers defense. We've seen that.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's so important for the Flyers to really focus on that possession game,
Yeah.
because if they lose the puck, the Kings are just gonna play with it at
Yeah.
will. I think that, and that's something the Flyers have done better at, is maintain possession, and they've been skating the puck into the zone more than dumping it this year. I think, and that's something they're gonna have to continue in this particular game because, yeah, the Kings are just so dangerous on all levels like that.
I mean, right now, Drew Doughty plays over 26 minutes a game.
Yeah.
I,
Well,
I,
that's
I'm
Drew
pretty
Doughty for you.
I'm pretty sure that's tops in the league. I don't know that for certain. Well, no, it's not blacked out here. So somebody's playing more, but that's a lot, man.
Yeah, and, the Kings are 3rd in the Pacific right now. Again, standings are early, but I do think that, maybe the Canucks are surprising people a little bit
A little
early
bit.
right now, as are the Ducks,
Oh,
for
the Ducks are
sure.
what, 5 in a row now.
Yeah, yeah, but I think the Kings are kinda right where expectations are for them in this division. As we know, Vegas is still doing Vegas things, but I do think that with the Flyers, they're gonna have to get those 2nd and 3rd chances, to your point, partially because of that goaltending, and
Yeah.
we don't know who we're gonna see because their other NHL level goaltender right now is, oh my god, brain freeze, is, Phoenix Copley,
It's Copley. That's what I
who
thought you were going to say.
yeah, who we've seen a lot of at the AHL level in past years, but right now he's playing at the NHL level, and they've kind of been going back and forth between the 2 a little bit there, so not sure who we're gonna see because the Kings have played the Ottawa Senators last night. We don't know the results of that game and who was in net for it, but still, like,
All that's going on in
regardless.
Ottawa. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, yeah,
Lots of stuff going on there.
but, I do think that, regardless of who's in net, they're gonna have to work to take advantage of it.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. Exploit their goaltending and see if you could keep the score down a little bit. I think that's the key because the Kings are one of those teams that will try and jump on you, and they did it to the Leafs, and the Leafs just they lost their will like in that game. So try not to let that happen.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be a tough weekend back to back ahead, but we will be back on Monday to talk about it, talking about both the Sabres game and the Kings game. Plus, it's Monday, so we'll have our nemesis of the week. And as a reminder, the Flyers are playing the Sabres tonight at 7 Eastern in Buffalo, so you can catch every second of the hometown broadcast on Sirius XM on the SXM app. Search for Flyers. And as a reminder, we always want to hear from you. So if you've got mailbag questions, you can tweet us at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail or comment over on our YouTube channel. I'm Rachel. I'm on the app formerly known as Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY.
Have a fantastic weekend, everyone.